No, I'm waiting for my mat and frame person to finish the job.
Oh, okay.
I have the print. I've been so goofy. I mean, no, it's been. I have no air conditioning in my frame shop anymore, so it has to be the right temperature for me to do that. So I've been doing things in the morning, so I'll get it done in the next few days. So,
No
nope.
worries.
All right. Uh, we're recording. Are we recording? Yes, we're recording. Yes. Okay. I want to welcome everybody to our October Education Night. It's October the 31st of 2024. We just have a few announcements. We're coming to the end of the year, guys. So we have the assignment for November, which is our last exhibit comment night, is multi-layered panoramas, which is going to be, Robert's going to talk about tonight in our member takeover. We do not have an education night in November because that's Thanksgiving. So this is the last of our education nights for the year as well. Just wanted to let everybody, we mentioned this last week, but the assignments, the board has come up with the 11 assignments for next year and set them over to Jim to do the descriptions on. And as soon as he's got those done, I will post them on the website.
Yeah, I got that from you this afternoon, Lynn, and it's been a busy day, but I'll get it written up.
Great, appreciate it. No super big rush, but we just want to get it on the website as soon as we can. The next outing that's coming up, actually, I can't get names today. Jack, on your fundraiser on the 15th, do you have all the volunteers you need?
We are shy too. We
If there's
need two
anybody
more
that can
people
come and
that,
yeah, tell them a little bit about it real quick.
yes. Well, this is a fundraiser for an organization that goes around the world building hospitals, churches, schoolhouses, and also has medical ministry, medical missions, which is what I've been involved in directly. The fundraiser is a golf fundraiser where it's held at Lake Javita, right outside of Dade City, or if you will, San Antonio, Florida. It's between Dade City and San Antonio. Lake Javita Country Club is a beautiful place. It's actually two golf courses. They generally have 200 golfers at these meets, and they raise typically anywhere around $500,000, $500,000. It's a very, very well supported organization, and I've been involved with them for 30 years, and I've been doing a lot of photography there, amateur at that. But last year we started having our club, donate our time and take photographs of the teams that play, as well as the whole spine of the sponsors that sponsor and donate money. We give them a sign we make a sign for them at the holes. So we have hole signs. So we need photographers, and we actually have a morning shift and an afternoon shift, but there are a few of us that are working both at morning and afternoon. But to make it easy for most people, we need two more photographers that can spend half a day, if you will, or the whole day if you want. And it's a lot of fun, and there's plenty of food. We are stationed, the photographers are stationed at a place where they have a tent with food. We also have plenty of refreshments, but no alcoholic beverages on the golf course at all. But plenty of beverages and food. So it's a lot of fun. Robert is going to be there. He's going to be the guest instructor. If you need any pointers, that's what he's there for. You don't have to know how to photograph golfers. Robert will teach you. He'll show you. And but it's very simple. And I think you'll have a lot of fun. But you might
Also, we download your cards when you're done from your shift, and so you don't have to do any post-processing. Jack gets stuck with all that. So
Yeah, I do the post. You have to shoot in JPEG though.
you have
I
to
won't
shoot in
do
JPEG.
RAW.
You have to shoot
It's
a
the only thing I
JPEG,
ask.
and then we download all the images and give them to Jack so he can go through them and he posts them on their website. So
For those
it's
of
you
you
don't
that
need
have,
any lights. We did it. Karen and I did it last year. We found a spot where the background was nice. We have a banner that we have to use, and then we, we had a very kind of overcast day, so we didn't have to worry about the sun in their face or anything like that. So yeah, it's just a matter of finding a spot that is pleasant in the background, and as they come up, there's usually three or four of them in a team. You have them stand there before they tee off, and you take their picture, you get out of their way, and you let them tee off, and that's all you have to do. And I spent a lot of time just trying to catch their swings. It was a lot of fun just trying to catch, getting a good shot of a swing. So, and it's a lot harder than you think.
it's like catching birds.
Yeah, it's like catching birds.
You should be good at that.
Yeah. So if there's anybody else, we have how many? We've got 8 so far?
We have 9. We need 2
9?
more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need a couple more. So if anybody is interested, let Jack know, and he'll give you the details.
What are the dates?
The 15th.
It's the 15th of November.
Yeah, it's a Friday.
It's a Friday. It's a Friday, 15th of November. And by the way, those of you that have signed up this week coming, I'm sending you a form that has all of the instructions and answers a lot of questions. But if you have any questions that are not answered, please call me.
Do we get a new shirt this year?
We're going to do what? Shirts? Yes, you get shirts. You will get nice
shirt last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And a gift package too.
Yeah,
I'm not telling you what it is because I don't know what's in the gift package.
Jack, I'll volunteer.
Let's a new camera.
No, I don't think so. They're not springing for that.
Oh, they had some pretty nice auction gifts.
Every golfer gets a gift.
Oh, geez.
There's 200, and I mean they are wonderful gifts.
Yeah, stuff was crazy how much stuff was there. Anyway,
yeah.
All right, moving on. The annual holiday party and awards will be on December the 8th, which is a Sunday. Lee Wynn checked, and Felipe Park, which is where we have it, is back up and running, and our pavilion did not blow away, so we're good. So it will be at 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. I will be putting the details and sign up sheet for the potluck meal on the website sometime next month. So we're now set at the next meeting. Just a reminder that it's renewal time now. So if you can go to the website and go to the membership thing and fill out the form. We always want to make sure we have all the right information, so we have you fill it out every year. And then you go down to the bottom and you pay it through PayPal. And that way if you guys do it all on your own, I won't bug you. If you don't do it, I'll bug you. So just FYI. All right. Jim, do you have any comments you want to add?
Not right now. I'm looking forward to my presentation tonight.
Okay. Robert, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, Richard said he would volunteer, Jack.
I did.
I didn't understand that.
I said Richard said he would volunteer.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Did you volunteer him or did he volunteer himself?
I volunteered myself.
All right, Richard, glad to have you.
A lot of people are hard of hearing.
There's one more.
Not me. Not me. Yeah. Now I may not have a presentation tonight.
You got to do it. We got an assignment.
I can talk through it, but all the stuff is on the computer.
Oh, you think?
How far are you from us? How far are you from me?
Go to Lee Wynn's house.
Come to my house.
I have a big giant computer that is on.
Oh.
If need be, Lynn, I can talk slow.
You can talk slow.
I can talk slow and show more pictures.
Well, here's the thing. He's talking about what our assignment is for next month. And so
Yeah,
he got out of the
everything
last
is on.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get out of it.
Yeah, well, you can talk through it. Talk us through
Yeah,
it.
I'll talk to it, but the images that I have to show is on my computer.
Yeah, well, maybe the power will come on between now and the time because I've got you scheduled last anyway. So
Okay.
so
Yeah.
hopefully the power will come back on.
That's why I'm in the car right now.
Okay. Um, Anybody else have any comments or questions about anything? Nope. All right. Okay, so our education tonight is what we're calling the member takeover. This was kind of something I stole from out of Chicago. They had an attendee takeover, which I participated in this past year, and they had 12 people, and we each had to give a 7-minute talk. We had to keep it right at 7 minutes, or they'd cut us off. No, they would, but some people did go over a little bit, but I didn't. I got it down to 7 minutes. That's harder than you think. But we wanted to do something similar to that because what I found interesting is having attended that conference as well as other live online conferences where the speakers usually speak for an hour and a half. It was actually much more, to me, more impactful for those short little 12 speeches that people gave for 7 minutes each, because they each had one little subject they were talking about, one thing. And it was like, when you listen to somebody for an hour and a half, you kind of have a tendency to, kind of stop paying attention after a while, because there's only so much you could talk about and keep people's attention for an hour and a half. But for 7 minutes, there's a point. There's a point, they make the point and you're on to something else. So we learned about 12 different things in an hour and a half rather than maybe 1 or 2 things in an hour and a half. So we talked about trying to do some different things here, and we wanted to try this. So we got 6 volunteers. Myself, Leon, Lee Win, Lee, it seems like if your name starts with an L, you're kind of, into this kind of thing. Jim and Robert. So then it's Lynn, Leon, Lee Win, Lee, Jim, and Robert. So there's 6 of us tonight. I would have loved to have some other folks, but you guys watch what we're doing tonight. It's not that hard. Yes, it's a little nerve-wracking, but we're all friends. We know each other. It's not like you're talking to 3,000 people like I did out of Chicago that I don't know. This is all a bunch of people we do know. So it's not that hard. So I'm going to be the first one. I'm going to take the first slot here. And so I'm going to go ahead and is there any questions about that? Anybody have any? So what's going to happen is each one of us is going to be sharing our screen. I've already made all them hosts. So hopefully they're all set up as hosts or co-hosts, and they'll be able to share their screen to share what they're going to be talking about in terms of pictures. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully I got this set up right. And share. Here. And can you see? You can't see my screen.
Yep.
My screen.
Yeah, we see it.
What do
Yeah,
you
we
see?
see it.
The
A narrow
alley or
passageway.
pathway.
What?
It's an
A
alley.
narrow pathway.
Okay, that's the one I want you to see. It's my second one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started right now. Whoop. All right, can you see the first screen, the first thing?
Yep.
Okay, let me get this out of the way. All right. And this needs to move. Too many pieces here. This needs to go someplace else. All right. All right. All right. The topic I'm going to be talking about is listening for better wildlife images. We are primarily visually oriented, or we would all be at a very different type of club meeting. So sound does not seem like something a photographer needs to worry about. But in wildlife photography, many times we hear an animal way before we see it. Here are a few more key points to remember. We often hear wildlife before we see them. Clear your mind, be in the moment. Alone is best, especially at first. Over time, you will learn to recognize animal sounds immediately. Unusual or new calls or songs will come to the forefront of your hearing because you're not used to hearing them. Stop and listen often. You will hear and see more if you are not moving. We have a tendency to run around when we are out looking for wildlife, but stop and listen and you'll see and actually hear more things that way. And use the sound to locate the animal and then make your photo. So those are the key points to start off with. Florida trails. This is the trail, some of you may recognize this, where I honed my listening skills. This is Circle B Bar Reserve in Lakeland. This trail has water or marsh on both sides with some openings in the trees and the bushes. I have gone back many times and become accustomed to listening to animals and birds that are normally there. There is one sound on this trail, though, that gets my attention every time. This is a male American alligator. Males lift their head and tail out of the water as they growl. The low tone carries a very long way, so it can be somewhat scary until you locate them. Birds are what I want to photograph, though, here. But with the trees overhead on the trail, I almost always hear them before I see them. This is the sound of a red-shouldered hawk that flies by fairly fast. I shoot as quickly as I can before the trees obscure my view again. Another common raptor in the area has a distinct call as it flies overhead looking for prey. This is the osprey, and they are very vocal as they fly and perch. So finding them through their call is usually fairly easy. Another bird of prey sounds something like an osprey, but knowing the difference can lead you to photographing these beautiful birds.
Lynn, are we supposed to be hearing the sounds of these animals?
Yeah, can you hear it?
I'm not.
No.
No.
Yeah.
B.
Progress.
The bald eagle, this one was making quite a fuss. If you hear both an osprey and an eagle at the same time, you just might photograph something like this. This is why the eagle was fussing. He had he and the osprey were kind of having a little disagreement. So anyway, I know identifying birds by sound can be challenging, so I actually use an app on my phone. This is the Merlin app by Cornell Labs, which is at Cornell University in New York, and they have a huge, big ornithology lab up there. You can actually record a bird call, and it almost always identifies the bird. It's pretty good at, like if you're someplace where there's like human noises around, like cars and stuff like that, it just ignores them and it looks for the birds. And it also has a photo ID. So if you have a picture of a bird that you've taken, you can put it on, you can transfer it to your phone. And I usually take a picture of the picture with my phone, and then I can put it in Merlin and it will tell me most of the time what, as long as the picture is relatively decent, it will tell you what kind of bird it is. Just like photography, you need to practice listening. A convenient place to practice listening is in your own backyard. That is, if there are birds there. My yard has many trees and bushes, so I almost always hear the birds before I see them. Let me just increase my volume. I can't believe you really are not hearing these sounds at all.
No.
Nobody is?
Oh,
You.
No.
Let me do something.
I was hearing some of them, but the early part I didn't hear anything.
It's really low. Yeah, let me see. Let me stop sharing for a second and let me increase the volume. Okay. share this sound too. That might help. All right. Back to my screen. Can you see the Merlin app?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going here. Okay. So,
There we go.
Here we
Oh,
go.
Yeah,
yeah.
I can hear it.
Hear that one. Okay. All right. So the Carolina wren is usually up in a tree, and the call will lead my eyes right to it. The next bird is also usually high in the trees or in the thick bushes, so its call helps me zero in on its location. This is a can't talk tonight. The northern cardinal's call gives me an idea of where to look for that bright color so I can wait until he comes out into the open to hit the shutter. Getting to know the normal calls in your area and songs makes a newcomer really stand out. Here is a call and sound by an unusual visitor.
Woodpecker.
This is a pileated woodpecker making these sounds, along with that bright red crest,
Yeah.
help you locate it up in the trees.
Very few people come out.
One day, as I was sitting in my yard with my camera, of course, I heard an unusual song. I started looking around behind me and saw a flash of red. My first thought was, that cardinal sure sounded strange. Then it dawned on me that it might be another species. I followed the sound and found this bird. It was a summer tanager, an unusual winter visitor in my area. I would have never noticed this bird behind me except for the song. I was thrilled to get some images when he flew from high into the trees over to the fence. Birds are great at making some unusual sounds, but there are other animals that top them. Here is a very distinct and unexpected sound coming from an unexpected source. This is the bugling of a bull elk. Once you hear a bull elk, you will never forget that sound. I have heard and then photographed elk in North Carolina, Tennessee, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico. There are so many other animal sounds out in nature. You just need to be open to listening and truly hearing them. To conclude, remember these key points. All of these images were made only because I heard the animal first. Adding sound to your adventures in nature will not only be more fulfilling mentally, but also more fulfilling for your photo gallery. Thanks for listening to my presentation. I hope this helps you make more wildlife images.
Very good.
That's
Thank you.
You?
Sorry about the sound to start off with, but you should be able to hear them in the recording. All right. Next up is Leon. Leon, are you ready? Where is he? Did we lose him?
He's muted.
He's muted.
He's muted.
What, can you ask questions on those,
Yeah,
on after
go ahead,
presentation?
you can, let's go ahead and maybe just a couple of minutes of questions. Does anybody have any questions about what I just talked about?
Yeah, on that one where you had the osprey and the eagle.
Yeah.
All right, they have two distinctive sounds, right? So you heard the sounds, and then you went. How did you locate them?
Well, I heard the osprey to start off with, and I followed him. I kind of watched him fly, and then I heard, as I watched him fly in a certain direction, I heard the eagle. And I thought, that's kind of strange, an eagle and an osprey at the same time. And as I came around out into the open, I saw them. I shot that shot from quite a ways away because I wanted to get it before they stopped doing it. But I got probably 4 or 5 shots of them interacting that way, but I would have never known about it if I hadn't heard and followed the sound of of both birds. So,
and you're not using a tripod, are you?
I never use a tripod.
Okay. So how heavy is your lens?
That was when I was using the 200 to 500, and it was pretty heavy. I've since purchased a 180 to 600 for my mirrorless camera, which is a little bit lighter. So it's a little bit easier, but it's just a matter of getting out there. And because if you have a tripod, I could have never caught something like that because I had to move too fast. I would have never caught it. And so even flying birds, I have a hard time. I used to try shooting with a tripod because that's what you're supposed to do when you're shooting birds. I felt so constrained by that tripod that it drove me crazy. The only time I would use it now is when we'd go out to like shoot eagles at a nest, and we were shooting them at the nest. The minute they start flying, I've got it off the tripod and I'm following them around with the camera without the tripod. So yeah, it's one of those things that it's every year. This time of year I got to start building up the muscles. So I can camera.
All right.
Yeah,
that was my question, was how heavy this thing was to.
yeah. I don't use a tripod hardly at all. The only time I use tripods now is when I'm shooting landscapes or whatever at night. That's about it. So, or long exposures like waterfalls, but never with birds. Anybody else?
Now, I generally use a monopod when I'm photographing birds.
I've tried it as well, but again, I feel constrained by it because I mean, I'm trying to catch a bird. I am one of these people. I'm taking a lot of pictures. If I've got a monopod on, I'm like going to trip over it or fall over it, or it's going to whack into a bush, a bush or something. So having it without, and if you shoot at a high enough shutter speed, which I never shoot below 1/2000th of a second. A lot of times I'm shooting at 3,200th of a second, 3/200th of a second. It's very, unless you're super shaky, you can get pictures. It's just and are spot on. If you got the focus point on the bird's eye as they're moving, you're going to get a sharp shot. And it takes practice. My practice animal is the pelican. They're big, they're slow, they're easy to find, and they go in a straight line. And then all of a sudden they'll dive. So they give you a little practice of going, and then they dive, and you can get a picture of when a bird turns. So the pelican is probably the easiest bird. If you've got sandhill cranes that fly by, they're another a big bird that goes slow and in a straight line is your best way to train and learn how to fly, to shoot flying birds. So. Anybody else?
I trained on my little kids running in the backyard.
There you go. Anything that moves in a straight line, although kids don't usually run in a straight line, but yeah, it's a little different holding a camera up in the air. That's the hardest part with birds is first you got to find them with a long lens, and I'll actually zoom out and then zoom back, zoom in and then zoom out. So I'll go a little wide on the lens and then to find the bird and then zoom in until I just switched to new lenses. I went from 500 at the long end to 600 and trying to find a bird, even with that 100mm difference was not easy. And I've had to train myself. Okay, when I put the camera up, that's where it's going to be. You've got to train your eye to see where the bird is. So, because the birds are not close, they're far away usually. So,
Yeah.
any
It's
questions?
very difficult, and also the lights keep changing when they are moving.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure you have to have a very high ISO when you have
Well,
such
I usually when I'm shooting birds, I'll put it on auto ISO and let it just sing. That's the only time I use auto ISO is when I'm shooting birds. Most of the time, though, if you're shooting them up in the air, it's going to be 100, 200 at the most. But if it's darker out, or if you're shooting them and they're sitting in a tree or something like that, obviously. So, if I got a circle B, I automatically put it on auto ISO. I always have my shutter speed. I shoot in manual, so my shutter speed is always 1/2000th or 3/200th of a second, and then I have my lens as open as it will go. So, but I don't worry about the f-stop in terms of that. So, yeah. Anyway. Anything else? All right, let's go ahead, Leon. You can go ahead and share your screen whenever you're ready. We can see it. You're not talking, are you? Leon, you're muted. All right.
Okay, there you go. Can
Yeah,
you hear me now?
now we can hear you.
All right, you see, I love shooting events.
Yep.
Okay, all right, we're good. All right, I love shooting events. Telling a story is always fun and challenging. I knew some of you thought I was going to be showing butterflies here today, but I'm not. um, I didn't realize how many, in putting together this slideshow, I didn't realize how many events I've shot in the last 4 years. So I had to try and figure out how I was going to do this. I've shot birthdays, anniversaries, sporting events, and what I call special events. Or maybe from somebody said something. I'll take maybe from 250 to 700 pics per event. However, what I'm going to try here is just to share a few pics from about 7 or 8 events, and I hope that works. All right. I love the problem solving of shooting events because you, as Robert says, you'll always have something will always come up, so you have to be ready. I also love the interactions and basically documenting history. And depending on the size of the event, shooting with someone else always helps. And Robert is my go-to. I'm starting out with the Herb Dixon golf event that was held in Bartow. I volunteered after being moved by a Channel 8 TV story back in February. He's 95 from Bartow and was a black professional golfer doing segregation. So that really intrigued me, and they've been holding this event for a number of years. I'd never heard about it. So I got on the phone, Googled the event, and called and said I'd like to volunteer, and they said sure. Now, registration included 100+ people, as you can see here. I like to try to tell the story from beginning to end. And obviously, I took a lot of pictures, but I'm just sharing a few pictures here. It was a great event, and people really had a good time. I'm just going to share some of the pictures from the event. How do I get you guys out of the, okay, now I hid you guys. Now I see. All right. People really had a good time. This is Herbert Dixon. They got a little plaque for him. He's 95 now, but the story is that from 90 on, I think he's hit a hole in one at every par 3 on this course, 90 and better. I was lucky. I was able to travel the course with him in his golf cart, and because of who he is and people have been participating for years, everybody wants to take a picture with her. And this is obviously at the end of the event. They give out trophies and different awards for different things. And I think these guys have won it like 3 out of the last 5 times. Now, for you golfers in these tournaments, I hear there's a little bit cheating that goes on. So that's what I heard the murmur in the crowd. Family events are always fun, and you can't ask for anything more than a pig roast. My primary goal at family events is to capture the fun and all the smiles that take place. And as you would expect, people love having their picture taken. So once you've been walking around for a while, you basically become invisible, and you can just wander and click without anybody sitting there jumping in front of you and getting a picture, and you just kind of basically disappear during the event. And what I try to do is capture everything at the event. This was a neighbor of mine who moved to Ocala and bought 5 acres. So he was really ready to show it off and have his family there. And when I do these group events, I always like to try to take a group photo depending on the type of event. And this is where Robert comes in. Robert was with me at this event, and as usual, I had Robert as my lighting expert, so he was able to help me set up the lights and get everything working right so that we get a nice, good family photo. Now, I did my first, this was new for me, a gender reveal party was a first for me. I had no idea what to expect, but again, telling the story is where I try to start off with. And I always get excited when trying to figure out how to tell the story of the event. And I do this with random shots. And, you know, an event like this, again, I'll take 250, 300 pictures. And then I just go through and I say, okay, let's take a look at what I can use and just talk about the event. And none of my pictures, most of the, I'd say 99% of the pictures I take are not staged. The only ones I stage are when I do the group shots. So I'm constantly running around. I generally have two cameras I have two cameras I'm shooting with, one with maybe a long lens and another one with a short lens. I'm just moving from spot to spot. And when I can, I try to travel to the place to see what the location is like. And I just constantly moving. And I always get excited to get that key shot. And here, because it was a gender reveal party, I had no idea what to expect. They told me what they were going to do. And obviously there is a moment where they shoot the cannon, as you can see, blue confetti, pink confetti. The blue confetti, it's a boy. And again, I was able to get that key shot, which I call the key shot. Another event I did was a house blessing event. That was new to me. I had no idea what to expect. I do my normal random shots, but it became very intriguing when the blessing started. This was set up, in the house where everything was centered around. And I ran into a problem here because all the women were on one side of the room looking towards this event. And you'll see as I go, and I had to find a spot. So I'm over there in the right-hand corner, on my knees or kneeling or whatever I can. But the issue was, and I don't know the title of the individual in the purple shirt, but he was the one who came to house blessing. And he spoke for an hour straight, nonstop, didn't take a breath. And they had different things going on. And I'm sitting here in the corner and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't move around really. And my legs are getting tired. And if I did try to get up because of where it was at, I would have been a total distraction. And I did not want to do that because it was a blessing. So it was amazing that I was able to get these shots and not disturb anybody. Now, I just remember that you see the little young boy in the black jacket there. He was an interesting character. And that's where you see all the women on the left-hand side of the shot. They're all sitting there watching this blessing. And they go on for an hour. And after an hour, everyone got up and I said, okay, everything is over. It said, no. It was just intermission. So during intermission, folks would go get something to eat. And then they came back to the room, the same area. And again, he went another hour straight, nonstop talking and giving a blessing for the house. So again, it's cultural. I found it very intriguing and interesting. And it was just, it was a good learning experience for me also. But I was trying to capture what was going on. And obviously different things took place and they had different meanings. And I talked to for a better word, I'll talk to the spiritual advisor. That's what I'll call him for the time being. I can't remember what his actual title was. I got him because I've never seen a young kid. He couldn't have been more than, say, 3 or 4 years old. He was so well behaved with all this going on. and he was a ham for the camera. He kind of followed me around when I was walking around. So I turned around and I saw him, and he gave me this look, and I was able to get this shot. That was my shot of the day, to be honest with you. Medical conference. As you'll see here, this is a medical conference that was held at Moffitt. And this was the first shot of the day. They wanted to get a picture of all the board members. And as you can see, this is where Robert helped me attend this event, helped me on this event. He helped me with the actual board member shot. And whenever I can involve Robert when I'm doing a group shot, I like to, because I learn something every time. And this is the first time I saw Robert do something a little bit different from the lighting, but I think the picture came out very, very well. We had that background, which is a window, and it was very bright. So we had, so obviously Robert figured out how to take this shot. But I had a lot of fun at this event because I had a good understanding of what was going on. Because of my job in the pharmaceutical industry, I've attended events like this. So I felt pretty comfortable just walking around, talking to people and everything. So as you see here, we'll have pictures of the poster. These are poster displays that first year medical students I think their first year, second year medical students come and they present their posters, and the attendees get a chance to walk around and view the posters. These are just casual shots. This is one of the Moffitt administrators with the red tie, and this is one of the board members. And again, by now I'm just walking around looking for shots that I think that would be good, This is during the conference. I kind of like this shot because this was in the Moffitt auditorium. And as you see at the top part is the actual slide that is going on while they're doing their presentation. So I was able to get part of the slide and get them also. Again, presenters during the conference. This was a very exciting shoot. This was in Jack's backyard, Jack Maniscalco's backyard. It was an opportunity to shoot inside without lack of a better term, the giant housing complex that Jack can tell you about that took years to build.
Compound.
Compound, whatever you want to call it. I got a short tour and everything, but Dr. Patel hosted a visit from Sri Ravi Shankar. He's a highly renowned Indian guru and spiritual leader from India. And I've shot a lot of Indian events, and I just love the pageantry, and the colors are just unbelievable. And again, I'm trying to tell the story of the day, and these are the different things happening in order. This is a shot that Robert took. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a composite. Everything was held in the auditorium building. I guess I can call it the auditorium building. And this young individual here was the construction manager for the entire project. And talking to him was very interesting to talk about the project. But this is one of the centerpieces of the auditorium, and I think Robert did a good. I think this may not be the final shot of the composite, because I noticed the car and everything in the background. I know Robert will probably take that out, but this is a shot that Robert took.
Oh, Leon.
Yes.
Leon.
Yes.
This is actually a panel of 17 shots.
Okay. I couldn't remember what it was.
So there's your panel, people.
It's an example of what he's going to be talking about later.
Yes. All right. I was working in my garden one Saturday when I received a phone call around 3 o'clock, asking if I could shoot a small birthday party. Now, when I asked what day, they said it would be 7 o'clock this evening. I was like, oh my gosh. So I was all dirty. I've been working in the garden and I had 4 hours to get ready and get over there. Because of a referral, I said yes. And they did indicate that it would be a small gathering of friends. Now, once it was on North Armenia Street. So I kind of knew it was probably going to be, I didn't realize it was going to be something like this. Once I got there and drove into the driveway, I realized that this was not what they led me to believe. However, Robert always told me to bring everything in the kitchen sink when you shoot an event so that you're well prepared. And I was. This is their house that they've been building for a few years. And once again, the pageantry, the extravagance, the colors, and how they do things is what I try to capture because that's what they're trying to show off, and it's always a fun time trying to capture these pictures. And I always have a setup where I have lights set up because everyone comes and it's like the red carpet. And you can see this house was, although it was it was a birthday party, but as you can see, they still have paper on the floors because the house was still in that last phase. I like this shot because the individual in the green, they actually flew him in from California as a flutist, and he had about 15 to 20 of those flutes in front of him, and he would pick them up, and obviously every flute did something different. They love the party. They love the party. And I was just an opportunity to show them party. Finally, this is one of my favorites. I love taking sporting events. This is a basketball event that I may shoot twice a year. Players come from a multitude of states. It's a mixture of instruction and skill building, and they do play at the end. And I just shot one this past weekend in Lakeland, sponsored by the same folks. And they bring in people from ESPN. They give these kids an opportunity to be seen by potential colleges. So it's a really good event. This was high school boys and girls that I shot. This was a few years ago. And obviously they like the action shots. I try to capture the action shots and the responses of the people that are watching the event. And as always, I try to end with a group shot. Robert wasn't with me on this one, but this is the group shot that I shot. And that's the end of my presentation. Again, like I said, I like shooting events. I shoot a multitude of events, and it's always fun and exciting.
That's great.
Then I went over my time, I think.
That was interesting, Leon.
Go ahead
I
and
enjoyed
stop.
seeing the
Go ahead
inside of that
and stop
house that
sharing.
they were building
Yeah,
forever.
go ahead and stop sharing, Leon.
Excuse me?
You can stop sharing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right, stop sharing. There we go. There we go.
Does anybody have any questions for Leon?
Yes, I have a question about his lighting.
Yes, me too.
When you shoot a group shot, you said Robert taught you. What did Robert teach you about shooting a group shot of maybe 15?
Well, it all depends on the background. The one I shot with the academians, we had light coming in from the background. It was a window, so you had glare. So Robert set the lights up. The first time I've seen Robert set the lights up a little bit different, where they were shooting out as opposed to shooting in. We were shooting out, and he explained all that to me. But yeah, it's something I learned when Robert's with me. It's always a learning experience. The big family shoot was pretty simple, but it was so it was very large. And we shot that with the academic shot was shot with 2 lights. The family shot was shot with 1 light. That was shot with 1 light. It was pretty simple, but I'm talking to Robert. I'm taking shots real quick to see what it looks like on the back of my camera. More power, less power. Do we change the aperture? Do we change the ISO? I like Robert.
What kind of lights are you talking about? What kind of lights do you use?
These are, what am I using? Pro Photo battery.
Flash or
Yeah, strobes. Pro Photo strobes.
okay.
Now
Maybe
on the
on
basketball,
camera?
excuse me.
Use flash on camera ever?
For the basketball shot, I think I did because we move so fast there that we don't have time. I don't have time to set things up because they're just moving so fast. So I'll put a flash on camera for that.
Usually you try to avoid that though?
Excuse me?
Usually you try to avoid flash on camera?
It all depends. It all depends because sometimes you're moving really, really fast, and it depends on if it's the end of the day, people are tired, and trying to get people together is very, very difficult to try to get people together depending on the type of event. Family events is easy, but trying to mobilize them and position them and do all that takes a while. But then at the same time, when you have two people, you're trying to maneuver people together, and then Robert's setting up the lights, and then I'm taking my test pictures. And after we get everything set up, we probably have about 60 seconds to take 7 or 8 shots, and then they're gone.
I was impressed with that shot of the group in front of the glass windows and outside, and there was no reflection from lights at all in those windows.
You can talk to Robert about that one. That was one of the issues. That was one of the issues. And I'll be perfectly honest with, I turned everything over to Robert in a shot like that. And we used that. They wanted to shoot that in the room. So when we got to the room, obviously that's the first thing that we noticed. And I was like, okay, Robert, what do we do?
What'd you do, Robert?
I offer classes on lighting.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Any other questions for Leon on his event shooting?
I was just very impressed by the even lighting inside a room, even outside under the trees, and of course with a window in the background.
Well,
That's
outside,
always a
outside, I don't have a flash. When I'm
Oh,
inside,
Leon, that big gigantic group shot, we did use a flash.
well, yeah, for
With
the
the
group
bear.
shots, we use a flash because it's so expansive. But when you're when you're taking the candidates outside and it's an outside event, I don't use a flash. And Lynn taught me, when I heard Lynn talk about auto ISO one time, so that was the first time I used auto ISO. I shoot in RAW, and I generally shoot manually, and I'm always adjusting things. But that was the first time I shot with auto ISO, and it worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
Sporting events inside, I'm shooting at a hot ISO of like 6400, as open as I can. No flash because that will interfere with the players. But this is where DxO comes in handy when it comes to handling the noise.
Anybody else? All right, Lee Win, you're next.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. Well, Ming asked me to do the travel experience since I travel a little more than other people. So basically, talking about during the travel, how do you prepare your travel, and what lessons I learned during the travel. So the packing gears, I always pack in 2 cameras, especially international travel. The story was 1 year we were in Madagascar, and I only had 1 camera body, and we climbed the mountain chasing the lemur, and my 1 camera did not working anymore. So, okay, spent so much money got there, and my camera is not working. I didn't have a second body. Unfortunately, another lady, nice enough, she used Nikon. I use a Nikon, and she had an extra body, and I'd be able to borrow it. So since then, I always carry 2 bodies, again, especially international travel. So that's the camera body. The lens really depends on if you do just traveling, not for wildlife. If for wildlife, you do need I always carry more than 400 millimeter, so 400 millimeter to 600 millimeter for wildlife. But if you just do street photography, landscape, you don't need that big lens because they're heavy to carry. So I usually have wide angle, which is a 14 to 24 millimeter one. And the middle range, usually I have a 70 to, the 24 to 70. The long lens, I usually carry the 70 to 200. But now they do like a Nikon, I think Lin has the 24 to 200. So you can, don't need to bring that many bodies because they do get very heavy. So the wider angle, like this one, shooting this, you need a wider angle to be able to do that. And this one actually, because I have the 70, the 24 to 70, and then the deer is so close to us, so I'd be able to do shooting right under there. And then this one, because it's far away, and this is in Grand Canyon, it's far away, so this was shooting use a 70 to 200. And then also I'm talking about the battery. The batteries, it depends on the weather. We did shooting quite a bit in Arctic or Antarctica, especially Arctic. They can be minus 15, 30 degrees. So the battery burn really fast. The needle one, they burn very fast. So you want to prepare enough. And if you're in a cold place, and it's better you put your battery in your pocket, warm up, and then that way they don't burn that quick. So you do need to prepare enough for that. And this is use a over 400 millimeter lens to shoot in the bird. Memory cards. When you shoot in the wildlife or you shooting usually raw files, you do need quite a bit of memory cards. And especially now, if you have continuous shooting, they're like I shoot a bird, it's per second, it's like a 20, one shoot is 20 frames, and that card goes so quick. And so you want to prepare enough. And you always bring an extra. I remember one time I had a camera, they had 2 slots. I only had 1 card inside. And I finished that card. I didn't have a second one. And when I told Robert about the story, he said, you got the money to buy the camera. Why don't you buy more cards? That really made it even better. Also, the cards, if you shooting the video or time lapse, I talking about the interval shooting, because I usually do time lapse. I do the interval shooting. That way I have pictures also, but that take a lot for memory too. And the filters usually I use for if you do long exposure or waterfalls, then you want to prepare that. Backup external drive. So when you travel, you have to remember to have that. You have your memory card from the camera has the images there, and you better do that backup every day. And then about backup, a couple of things. One is, I think I have another slide talking about, don't put your backup external drive with your another like your memory cards at the same place. I have a friend. We were shooting in Churchill for Polar Bear. So when we returned, he was from New Jersey. So he backed up in his external drive, and through the airport, all the images was gone from the backup external drive. Fortunately, he had his memory card. He didn't erase anything, didn't reuse it. So fortunately, all the images is in that card. So that's one lesson. And he emailed to me right after he got home, said, you know, always backup. And before I didn't believe about the external drive gonna go bad, but they can happen. And I actually had one backup external drive, the older kind, the mechanical kind, they went bad. So the COVID time, the whole year, I had so many good shots for the birds, all that, and they all lost because that was the time I didn't have another backup. Another thing about backup, you know, every day after you shoot, it's again, especially you do the international travel, you better back up on that. But when you do the backup, another mistake I made was a very bad mistake. Is I backed up, and I don't know if you guys, when you do the backup, sometimes your number repeat, and they will show in the Lightroom, they will show you either skip or replace or stop, some message like that. I assuming I just skip. I did something. I didn't even realize basically the numbers went to, let's say 999. So 4 nines, I think that's 4 nines. So that actually erased my images. And this is a hard lesson because I erased my regional memory cards. So I lost all that photos. That was happening in Brazil. And I was thinking I probably happened before. Maybe I shooting so many I didn't remember, but that one I didn't remember so well. I said, where are my photos? So that was very painful. Card readers. So you make sure you have your right card reader. Like now the memory cards have different kinds. Some of them can read like a Leica. They can read my XQD one, the Sony one, but cannot read the Nexar, that card. So make sure you have a right card reader. So I do take my laptop. And then if you're gonna shoot in night photography, you do need a head lamp, and make sure you have the red light. Because like this time we're in Colorado, waiting for Northern Light, which I said I didn't have anymore, but didn't see anything. But finally realized they will have the Northern Light is right on the sky. You're gonna see on your screen on your camera, not by your eyes. But the guy walking by, and they all have so bright light there. I had to say something. Could you turn on your red light? You know, so. Remote control, that's also for non-exposure or at night, but you can also use your timer. So that way, if you don't have that, you can do that way. Packing the clothing, always layers. Because you don't, and some places like Africa, they could be so cold in the morning and night, but daytime is so hot. These times we went to New Mexico, same thing. It can be very cold, and then it can be very hot. So they layer up, but the under layer, try not, use the wool kind of material, but not cotton, because when you get hot, and then it become cold, and that's not keep you warm. And prepare enough your clothing. And this year when we were in Namibia, I thought it's going to be hot. And even though I know the temperature, so I didn't prepare enough clothing for at night, because I didn't I didn't even think about we're going to shooting at night. I'm not good in shooting at night, so I didn't think about it. But I end up there was really a super, super good place to shooting light photography. But then at night it was so cold, so I didn't bring enough. Unfortunately, another lady lent me her clothing. And this, clothing also depends on where you go, which season you go. Like when we go to Arctic, and it was super cold, so that's a lot of preparation. But if summertime, let's say you go to Key West, and you don't need a lot, raincoat. This also I learned another lesson. This year we were in Alaska. The raincoat, I specifically bought a raincoat and said it's a Gore-Tex, and that was expensive. But I have the 2 jacket. It says it's a raincoat. They're not water proof. They said it's waterproof. They're not. They actually there was not heavy rain, just drizzly rain. But even that, the water penetrates the coat and get inside. So when you get a raincoat, you wanna double check, make sure it's a real raincoat. Medications. This is especially international travel. I always pack a medication. Allergy. You don't know what you're gonna get. One year we were in France. My daughter, next morning, her whole body was rash. So that could come from, the sheets, the bedding, the detergent. The problem is I didn't have a medication, and I talked about that was a 911 year. And I went to pharmacy, and I don't understand them. They don't understand me. I only can say, show that itching in my body language. Finally, they get to know. So since then, every time I travel, I have a Benadryl prepared in my pack. If you go high altitude place like Peru, Tibet, I learned that too years ago. And before I into the photography, I went to Tibet. The whole week, I didn't enjoy it at all. You get that severe headache. It's like your brain gonna come out. Bad stomach ache. Oh, it was bad. So I had that bad experience. So now if I go to the a high altitude place, like say if you're gonna go Peru, and that's one example. You might be gradually get to the high altitude place, but get a medication from your doctor, and that way you well prepared. Motion sickness. This go to when we visit Antarctica, because normally I don't get the motion sickness, but when you pass that Drake Passage, that's your boat, just like a rocking on the sea. Many people get sick. So basically, you need to get that prepared. We got the patch put behind your ear. That worked. Also, you don't want to eat too much. If you knew you're going to go through that, try not to eat too much, and just lay on your bed flat. Okay. Stomach problem. This one, if you travel to Africa, India, those food maybe not you may not used to that. You're gonna get a bad stomach ache or diarrhea. So you want to have that medication prepared. But really the best one work for me also is if you like a rice, just ask them for the rice, put hot water with the rice, eat that. And I also I do that. And one time in Madagascar, I learned from another physician from New York too, and he did the same thing. So that's just some experience from that. Pain medication, and you really get some Motrin, Advil. that and cold medication, that's pretty easy to happen. Even this year, we're in Namibia in the car because you only have 6 people in one van. If one person got the cold and he's not covering himself, and guess what? The whole everybody in the car gonna get it. That happened to us also. And the last one is constipation. I think that's our, the age get that, and if you're not eating enough vegetable during travel, not drinking enough water, so you want to get that prepared too. The safety. So follow the rule wherever you go, and follow the rule. Stay with a group, especially in some foreign countries. They will let you know if you have a guide. They will tell you where you should not go. So just follow that. Also respect the cultural differences there. Where Leon showed the Indian people, we're in India, so the culture is different. But we're on their way, and then they had a wedding on the road, and I didn't know we were supposed to take a photo. We could take a photo or what, and good thing the driver said that you can just go in, and that I feel not respect them because we didn't even know them, but they then they still want us to go in to the wedding, the bride and all that. So the culture is different there. Transportation on time. When they say you need to be there 8 o'clock, you got to be there 8 o'clock. I told a few people about this story, about what we run into. This photo we took in Grand Canyon. That was sunset, actually after sunset. And we went there, one shooting the lightning. The light on the Grand Canyon part, that's actually moonlight. So we had a good time to shooting, but guess what? Because we took the bus, only bus can go up there. So we took the park's bus went up there. And we thought we could take the last bus return. But end up, we missed the last bus. And that was 6 miles way to back to the parking lot. And by that time, it was 8:30 at night, and there was nobody there. So end up, me and my husband had to walk him back, and then the GPS told us a shortcut, and we went a shortcut. And guess what? We got lost in the forest. And that time, I didn't even want to think about it if there was an animal there or not, because it was was at night, and couple hours later, finally we got out there. But safety is important. So that's I want to say. So be on time to go back to the transportation if you didn't have your own. So if you're a cold place, you prepare your hand warmer. Like if you go Canada in the winter, hand gloves, and the gloves in the winter, I like bring have a glove liners. And then outside have another one. The heavy one you cannot shoot. So the liner you can shoot. Also, they have the heated gloves and heated socks. I do use those because my hands, my feet get really cold. Sunscreen, sun lotion, I type this wrong here. And also the insect repellent. So when you you travel international, sometimes they do give you those instructions. Sometimes they did not tell you the detail. So I think it was 2 years ago, we went to Sri Lanka, this place, and there's there are a lot of lychees. And I asked, well, how about they said at night, so they give us something, they actually bought something put on your leg to cover it. And they said that the goat only came out from the ground to get on you. But that was not true. They came everywhere. So they get up, they suck your blood. So when you go to those jungles and just kind of look those details. sunglasses, you want to get prepared in even the cold place. The UV light is very strong. Backup, we're talking about. And this also I talk about don't put your backup drive and regional disk in the same bag. And this photo I want to say is the one I said I lost my photos. And this one actually that night I processed the photo. I put some on my phone. So I took the picture on my phone, but I lost the photos because I overrided what I was on the memory card, and then I didn't realize the next day I was using that car. You erase that, you use that car. So that was very painful. So yeah, so that's what I have.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you, Luann.
That was a lot of
Welcome.
details.
Lots of good ideas, details.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good, Lewin.
How about
Thank you.
any questions? She gave us kind of a lot of stuff there. Any questions from anybody?
I just have one comment I wanted to make about downloading pictures. Like programs that you download, you can rename your pictures and you can change the numbers.
Right.
Yes. And well, after that, my husband knew all that, but I guess sometimes I hard-headed, I'm not listening right, or I don't understand right. So I learned from my own mistake.
No, I made that mistake too. I made that mistake.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
When traveling in foreign countries, Pepto-Bismol takes care of a lot of ills. So the pink medicine is wonderful. Number two, I avoid ice, and any drink that is not open, I won't drink it. And mostly what I drink is water when I go international, because that's where people get into trouble. They put ice in. We love ice in our drinks. Americans do. They know it, so they put ice in our drinks to please us. But that ice is frequently contaminated in foreign countries. So stay away from ice in the drinks, and open your own bottles of drink. Take a drink bottle of any kind, but preferably water, and avoid the germs that you're going to get if you're not careful.
Yeah, I
also
don't eat their
salads.
salads too because I don't know how they wash them. So basically, in Africa, India, I like Jack said, I avoid all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Liwen, do you use do you have like a cream bug spray that you use, or do you use a spray that you pack?
I have both kinds, and so I just buy the very small size.
Yeah.
Usually when we travel, we don't carry a lot of stuff. I just have my camera bag and a carry-on bag. So so we don't carry a lot. So everything, like those things, I just get a small size. The one is like a pencil, so very small. Yeah.
I have almost the exact same packing list as you, and I have it as a checklist on my phone, and then almost all of it is in my camera, like f-stoppers backpack, so it's always all the way packed. The only additional thing that I always make sure that I have on there is I have a combination whistle and compass that fits into one of the things. It's just one of the hiking like 10 essentials. So if you ever get off trail, then you have like an emergency thing with it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, Lee, you're up next.
Okay. This is about turning photographic mistakes into art. I've been photographing since about 2007. I feel like I'm constantly learning something new. I've done numerous photography workshops. I've joined photography meetup groups. I've read numerous books. I've done lessons with both Jim and Robert. I've been in this club for about 6 years. I've been submitting photos for exhibit nights almost every time. I've done countless hours of videos on Kelby One. Even a month ago, we were in Charleston, and I was in a car sitting next to Jim for 4 days, listening to him talk about the inner workings of a camera, things I knew nothing about. And it just amazes me how much there is to learn. Sorry, I've been fighting a cold all week. So after about 17 years and countless hours of education, I have this one habit that I just can't seem to break. And it's my normal mode of shooting, which is shoot first, ask questions later. It's basically, I see something, I get excited about it. It's a fleeting moment. I grab my camera, I start shooting. I look down at my screen and it says these dreaded words, processing. It's doing a 20-second exposure and I just failed to look. And this is my shoot first, ask questions later mode of shooting. I get past it, but it's every time. So I have this macro lens. It's kind of my go-to lens. I shoot with it all the time. It's got a great bokeh. It's compact, narrow field of view. It works great for some quick portraits and close macro shots, but it's been abused. I've dropped it several times. The lens hood, I can't even take it off because I dropped it. It's got a polarizer on it that I rarely ever take off, but I always forget to turn the polarizer to get it to polarize. Yeah, part of my normal mode of shooting. So anyway, I took this shot, this lens last December. There was a group of us that went to the botanical gardens to shoot Christmas lights. And what started out as just shooting the lights quickly turned into something very different. And so I was using the macro lens. Let me just share my screen here, figure out how to do this.
You need to get the Zoom out of the way.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Is it up?
Now we're seeing your email.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we see your desktop.
Yeah, okay. So Christmas lights, nothing exciting. And the one thing about this lens is if it's really complicated, it just has the hardest time focusing. So my next shots turn into something like this. And then, it shot the lights and then it wouldn't focus. And I looked at it my screen and I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. I think I like the out of focus bokeh far more than that. So I threw the lens into the camera into manual focus, and I turned the focus ring, and I started seeing things like this, these big bokeh balls from the Christmas lights. So I decided to try multiple exposures just to see what would happen using manual focus and just throwing it out of focus. And I started getting shots like this. It gave me some depth. And then I tried the lighten mode and it just changed things completely. And when I took these shots back onto my computer, I took it into Photoshop and started playing with filters and ended up with this. So the mistake of not being able to focus turned into something completely different and not even remotely close to what I started out doing. I started messing around with other shots, taking them into Photoshop filters. This other one is called Twirl. It's in the filters in Photoshop. This is called Wave, and you can just completely change. It was that turned into that. I started messing around with just some ICMs, multiple exposures, and then it turned into shots like this, which were completely out of focus. and something that I would normally just delete because it was horrible. I took it into Photoshop and turned it in, used the wave filter and turned it into this. Something just completely different and abstract from what I started with. That was December, February. We went to the state fair, and we ended up at the end of the night at the pond across from the Ferris wheel. And I had the same problem with this lens. I couldn't get it to focus, so I threw the camera into manual focus. I started turning the dial, the focus ring, and I started seeing this show up on my viewfinder. And I'm like, that was far more exciting than just a normal shot. It's just something completely different and abstract. And I just kept shooting, the lights kept changing, and I started getting just these kaleidoscope effect. If you ask me to replicate it, I have no idea how this happened. I'm not even sure I could do this again, but it was fun just to play around, and lens focus failure turned into something really interesting and different. April, we had Stephanie Johnson come in and do her presentation on ICMs, and she had some shots she showed that I really liked and wanted to try and replicate. So in May, I went up to North Georgia and tried to replicate this shot, and it was basically a forest scene. So I did two shots, one of the upper part of the tree, did like a twirl motion, and then I did the lower part with an up and down motion, and I blended them together in Photoshop and got that. Well, that wasn't even remotely close to what I wanted or what I thought I was going to get. So I normally would just delete this, but I'm like, let me just throw it into Topaz and see what I can get. And it turned out into that. So June comes around, and we, Lynn, Lourdes, and I went to Chihuly to go scout for our group trip to the Chihuly. And I'm messing around, exact same lens, 60 millimeter. We get in there, it's dark, and the lens won't focus. So I'm like, okay, I'm done messing around with this. Throw it back in manual focus mode and turn the focus dial, and I start seeing things like this turning into abstracts. It completely got rid of any distractions in the background. The colors popped, and it just made for what I thought was a pretty interesting shot. And this is that big display in the back room. There were so many pieces in there. It was so hard to isolate anything. And so I just, again, did a manual focus, threw it out of focus, and I got these really creamy, dreamy lines on some of the glass. So Pier and Beer, we were running around. I was running around doing ICMs, and the end of the night, I was standing with Lourdes, and we were taking this shot at the airport, and I think she hit me over the back of the head, told me not to steal her shot, and I moved and got that. So like normally I would just delete it as a mistake, and I'm like, let me see what I can do in the Photoshop filter, and it turned into something like that. So just completely different, completely abstract. I never knew, how they're going to end up, but hey, it just kind of worked. So fast forward a little bit, September, we went to Charleston, and we were photographing this bridge at night. I was doing like 4-minute exposures. And while I'm standing there, just waiting for the exposure, I'm like, let me just throw this into manual focus, throw it out of focus this time. And by now I'm like completely embracing this whole out of focus, manual focus thing. And I get this. Completely different, totally abstract. I love the bokeh. There's still lines of the bridge. and it's just something completely different. Last 2 weeks ago, we were in New Mexico, and just completely embracing this. We were around some aspens and these ponderosa pines. I'm like, let me just see what will happen if I throw it into manual focus and throw it out of focus. I got that and then took it into topaz, cleaned it up a little bit, saturated it, and I got something like this in this painterly effect. And here's another one with the aspens and a ponderosa pine, and just threw it into topaz and just got something completely different. I'm going to end this with just a quote, with two quotes. There are no mistakes, only opportunities to do something else, and art always has to be a surprise. What started out with these photos is either a lens failure trying to focus, a blurry shot, unintentional camera movement, or a user error turned into opportunities to do something completely different. And the end results to me were a very pleasant surprise. So that's
Lee, which topaz program were you using? Simplify?
this is the older original one. I've never updated it. And I have a few favorite painterly effects.
But even the older ones had different names. Which topaz?
Was it Impression? Looks like Impression.
Yeah, I think it's Impression.
That's the one that's very painterly, yeah.
Yeah. But there's a number of the painterly ones. I have a few favorites. I don't know the names of them, but
Looks like a painting. That last one.
yeah. So I really like how it changes the whole feel of it, even from an ICM or out of focus. It just kind of changes the whole feel of it.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, so everything doesn't have to be in focus all the time, guys. You can be arty.
Yeah, and that's great that you seized on the opportunity when you saw something to say, hey, this is not necessarily a mistake. This is a gateway into into doing something creative. And I love seeing what you've been doing with it.
Thank you.
See, that I need you to know, Lee. Even Jim is talking about gateway drugs.
Robert, the power hasn't come on at your house yet?
Nope. The whole neighborhood is out, and the kids are walking around with flashlights.
Oh my God. I think it's a trick or treat trick.
Yeah.
They'll be knocking on your door soon.
No,
they won't. You can't even see my door.
No, I mean through the car. They'll be knocking on the window.
Oh, the window, yeah. Agreed, yeah.
Are you going to ask the children to come to your car for candy?
No. I draw the line. Even I draw the line.
All right. Any questions for Lee, guys?
My computer buffered there. You're telling what lens you were using. Can you repeat that again?
Oh, it's a 60 millimeter macro.
But you can do that. You can do that with anything. Just throw it out of focus.
Any of them.
Yeah. Any lens. Yeah, just throw it out of focus. Yeah.
Most of all of the photos except for two were actually done with this.
Yep.
So Lee,
you can go to a wide aperture and throw it out of focus.
Yeah.
So Lee, I'm very confused. When is a mistake a mistake?
Exactly.
There are no mistakes.
There are no mistakes.
It's meant to be.
I don't delete anything.
Well, from an educational standpoint, most people want to be like everyone else. And when the opportunity presents itself, when things are not like everyone else, then that's the universe telling you to go ahead and embrace it and be accepting of something different.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right, Jim, go ahead. You're up.
Okay. I wanted to talk about, since we're going to be going into a new year, a whole new bunch of assignments, I want to try and give people a little inspiration to try and do something a little bit more with your cameras and approaching the assignments. Talk a little bit about visualization, pre-visualization, coming up with an idea in advance and executing it, as opposed to going out, walking around, and pointing your camera at what you see. Try being a little more artistic, a little more creative, come up with some things. I'm going to show you some photographs and tell you the stories behind them. And hopefully with some of them, you'll get the idea that, hey, these camera club assignments aren't that hard. So I'm going to share. Let's see. I want this screen. And I'm going to start with something from somebody we all know, Ansel Adams. This is actually the photo that made him famous. This is the photo that he made his name with. He was not well known and was working on a portfolio. He had taken.
Man, I'm just seeing the Zoom screen.
Oh, you're not seeing.
I see the Lightroom.
I see Lightroom.
It's weird. Maybe it's my computer. I'm sorry. Hang on.
It's probably your Zoom, Victoria.
Yeah, should be a black and white picture of Half Dome by Ansel Adams.
Found it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And yeah, in any case, he was working on a portfolio, needed a few more images. He had photographed this many times, but he had an idea in his head to make something different than what he normally would make for a standard black and white landscape photo. And he, in order to make this shot, he packed 40 pounds of gear in a backpack and climbed to an altitude of 3,500 feet with a 40-pound pack. And he took 12 glass plates with him. And he got so inspired by other scenes on the way up that he stopped and unpacked the gear, took photos continuously as he climbed up 3,500 feet to the point where he got the photo he wanted to make, which was this, and he only had 2 glass plates left. So he shot with a yellow filter for one, which gives a standard, typical black and white photo. Gray shadows with detail, gray sky, just a standard scene. It was taken just as a safety shot, just to have a good shot of it. Then with his last glass plate, he wanted to execute what he had in his mind as his vision, which was to create something much more dramatic with a lot more visual impact. He put on the red filter, got the black sky, the black shadows, got this photo. This photo was so well received, he put it in this photo. This was the photo that started the Ansel Adams style that he became known for, and this is the photo that got him known. But, he pre-visualized this, had the idea in his head, and went to a lot of effort to do it. And that's what I want you to start thinking about, is have an idea and be willing to put some effort into it to execute it. We have it a lot easier these days. Our cameras are a lot smaller, a lot lighter. We're not trying to carry fragile glass plates up a mountain, and we can look at the back of our camera right away, see what we have, and make adjustments. These guys back in the day could not. Here's the next photo is by another very, very well-known photographer, Philippe Halsman. He was a portrait photographer. He holds the record for the most Life magazine covers, 101 covers he shot for Life magazine. He did a lot of work with Salvador Dali, and this is one of my favorite photos of his. Now, again, this was pre-visualized, and a lot of effort went into this photo. Dali originally did not want the cats. He originally wanted to have ducks being exploded with dynamite,
Oh, jeez.
and he originally wanted wet cement instead of the water. But they decided they were not going to blow up ducks with dynamite in the studio, and that it would be too difficult to be cleaning up wet cement off the cats in the studio for the shot, so they went with water. Now, what was done for this, the photo on the right is the painting on the right is the painting that inspired what the photo was going to be. The stuff was suspended by wires. The chair was held by an assistant by one leg, just out of frame. Philippe Halsman's wife and daughter tossed the cats, and another assistant threw the buckets of water. Now, with a shot like this, you had no idea of knowing whether you got the shot or not. So Philippe Halsman actually would take a shot, go into the darkroom, develop the film, print the photo. While he was doing that, they had to round up the cats, dry off the cats, and mop up the studio. And then he'd come back and say, okay, well, we missed. We got to do it again. They did this 26 times.
Yes.
So I want you to think about that, setting all this up, all the lighting, all the props, how it's done, getting Dali to jump, throwing cats, throwing buckets of water, cleaning it all up, and developing the film and printing 26 times to know you got it. We're also lucky enough that he preserved some of his outtakes with notes. Like this, water splashes Dali instead of cat. This one, Dali jumps too late. Water covers Dali's face. I like this one. Secretary gets into picture. Look on the left side of the frame. I like the note on the last one. Chair covers Dali's face, spoiling perfect picture. So yeah.
They got fired.
So yeah, and Halsman worked a lot with Dali, created many portraits of him, and think about this when you look at a Camera Club assignment. One of the things that Halsman did was published a 36-page book of photos of Dali's mustache. So think about how creative you have to be for that, and you can look it up. It's called Dali's mustache. So think about the creativity that you have to come up with to do that. The next time you look at a Camera Club assignment and say, oh, I want to skip that one. There's another one Halsman did with Dali. It took 3 hours to arrange the models to look like a skull. That's a lot of work and a lot of patience and a lot of adjusting the lighting to get the feet to look like teeth and everything. They spent 3 hours arranging the models. That also takes a lot of patience on the model's part.
Yeah.
But this is one of many things that he did with Dali. But this is putting the effort into the creativity, coming up with the idea in advance, and then putting the effort in to execute it. And
no naked people in our assignments, though. Sorry, guys.
Now, the next two things I'm going to show you are actually from the photographer that inspired me to be a photographer. It was his work that gave me the idea that I wanted to pick up a camera. His name is Storm Thorgerson. He worked with the design firm Hypnosis and did most of the best album art that you might remember from music albums of the 70s and 80s. So this was from the Pink Floyd album Wish You Were Here. And they would use concepts and visualize things that would appear in the lyrics and the songs and the albums. And the album dealt a lot with voids and missing things in life and things that were empty. And it also touched a lot on the insincerity of the record industry at the time. So they had this concept of, well, at that time, a handshake meant nothing by this time in the business world, and that a handshake was an empty gesture, and that if you relied on a handshake to seal a deal, you were likely to get burned. And the best way to illustrate somebody getting burned in a business deal was set a man on fire. And they actually set the guy on fire for this. The stuntman was Ronnie Rondell. He was a Hollywood stuntman that did fire stunts. He did all the fire stunts in the Towering Inferno movie and things like that. And this again took 15 takes to get the shots. And I think somebody's got an echo or something going on in the background. I keep hearing feedback or something. If you want to mute your mics. But on the 15th take, he was reticent to do this at first because he said fire stunts are always done with the person on fire in motion, running, falling, in order to keep the flames out of their face. He had to stand still for this, and he wasn't keen on that idea, but they said they'd make sure he'd face into the wind to help keep the flames out of his face. On the 15th take, the wind swirled around and burned half his mustache off, and he dove to the ground, and they covered him up with blankets, and he said, okay, that's it. But they had the shot. In fact, this version of it is on the UK edition of the album. They used another take on the American version of the album. It's actually a different pose, different camera angle. It's one of the other 15 shots that were used. But that was how much effort went into conceptualizing and executing an idea. But that pales in comparison to what he did for this album here, and I've mentioned this one before in the past. This is no Photoshop, no darkroom trickery. This is a single frame taken in camera with all these beds, the dogs, the hang glider, the beach, the maid here. If you actually get a hold of the album itself and can look at it, he's actually holding the mirror at exactly the right angle that his face is seen in the mirror to the camera. This shot took a couple weeks to execute because of weather conditions and whatnot. Storm Thorgerson requested 1,000 hospital beds for the shot, but the studio would only spring for 700. So they actually had a crew of 30 people set out 700 beds on the beach. And there's a line in one of the songs about visions of an empty bed, and also another mention of an endless river. And so he got the idea of river, bed, and combining the words and making the beds run on like an endless river in the frame. And there's all the other elements come from songs on the album, the hang glider, the dogs, the other things going on. And they set everything out, they got everything out and ready, and the weather turned bad, and they had to pull everything off the beach again. They had to wait 2 weeks for the weather to clear and set it all back up and do it again. This shot cost $500,000 to produce. There's a behind the scenes shot from there's about a 9-minute documentary movie that you can watch on YouTube about the making of this photo. That's interesting, and this is one of the stills from that. You can see that's Storm Thorgerson up there on a little flatbed trailer behind a tractor, and getting everything prepped and in place. But this was done on film, single shot, in camera, no Photoshop, and that's dedication to executing an idea. Again, I want you to think about, when you see one of our assignments, think about some of this stuff. And Lynn, you can watch me for time. I'll show you over the years some of the stuff that I've done that's just on a very small scale compared to any of this, doing just executing some ideas. In the commercial world, actually, as a photographer, that's what you're doing all the time. The client has a visualization of the idea, and it's your job to execute their vision. But for yourself, you can do things. This is something some of you were involved with at a Stroba shoot. This was pre-visualized and choreographed and executed. This was done on 7th Avenue We had 2 people that had to carry the daybed out there. We had 2 models. We had 3 people working lights. We had me working the camera. And we rehearsed this on the sidewalk. And after rehearsing on the sidewalk, we waited for the traffic light to turn red. Everybody ran out in the street, plopped, jumped into place, took the shot. And by the time everybody was in place and we took one shot, the light was turning green again. We had to run it all off the street. And then we waited for the next cycle of light and did it again. But we actually got it on the first take. This was the first take. But it required the forethought to tell the 3 people with lights exactly where they needed to be with the lights, what the models needed to do, what their poses were going to be. And like I say, everything was choreographed and practiced on the sidewalk. And then we ran out and did it. And it was just a fun thing we did one night at a Strobus event. And I think, Lynn, you were with me for this one. This was for the City of Tampa Sexy Firefighter calendar. May have showed this before, but this was pre-visualized and set up. This was the City of Tampa ladder truck, and we set it up by the water behind Tampa General Hospital. We had to figure out and plan where to park the truck, how to set the ladder, angle the ladder so that the firemen would be between the buildings with the skyline, the right timing. I had to bring a generator for electricity to provide electricity for the strobe lights that we used. We had lights down low in the ladder. We had people holding lights on tall poles up here from ground level. And this was all pre-planned and executed from from an idea to that was that all the shots had to be pre-approved by the fire department before we could even shoot them. So this had to be storyboarded before we could even shoot it and set up and done. We showed this one before. We planned, this was all planned with the lighting, what was done. In fact, Lynn even had a list when she was with me on this. It was a whole checklist that we had to go for in order to make sure nothing was missed and everything was done right to create this 74 image composite that was done. Talk more about that later if anybody's interested. I had another time I got to go out to Salt Lake City and go out to the Salt Lake, and I had an image in mind that I wanted to do out in the Salt Lake. I wanted to really show the expansiveness of things, and my idea was to go out there with a fisheye lens, but I also knew that I just didn't want just salt flats in front of me and mountains in the background. I needed something to give some kind of visual interest beyond just that. And I had an idea that I was hoping to find a piece of driftwood. I had no idea when I made the drive out there if I would or not. I got to the parking lot and I went searching for 30 minutes up and down the highway until I found this stick here, which actually, it's hard to have a sense of scale. This is as big as me. This was about 6 feet long, 7 feet long on this branch. This was a big piece of tree, about as big as me, and it had just rained the day before, so the salt flats were making footprints everywhere anybody walked. So anywhere near the parking area was covered in footprints. I had to drag this thing almost a half mile out into the salt flats to get past all the footprints to make the photo. But it's the photo that I had envisioned in my head. And then I also wanted to do a low angle version and include the sun and really give it that stark, remote, out in the desert look to it. So I also reversed and did that. Just 2 shots, one after the other, with a fisheye lens to give a different look than what I had seen other people do out there in the Great Salt Lake, to give it a little sense of scale and perspective. I put some stuff out on stock photography sites to sell, and as I started getting into that, I started getting ideas in my head of what kind of images might sell as stock images. So the next image is one that I actually preconceived in my head. And I had the shell that's in the image was sitting around in the house. It was something I had collected on the beach years ago. It was sitting in my office. And then one day Lee invited some of us over to his condo on St. Pete Beach. I said, oh, well, while I'm there, I'm going to try and make the picture I have in my head. So this is the shot that I had in my head to sell as a stock photo. I brought that shell with me, put it out there, and I had this in my mind: shallow depth of field, ocean in the background, and plenty of negative space for ad copy or words to be put in if it gets used for marketing purposes. It can be cropped vertically if need be and have that space above it. And my idea worked out well because this is my best-selling stock photo ever of all time. This sells several times a month. This sells for years and years and years. So the pre-visualization came out exactly as I wanted, and it wound up selling. There's other times it's another method you can use. Jay Maisel is a proponent of this method, and it works well in kind of street photography situations. And that's find a place and then wait for the people to show up. And that's what I've done. In this case, St. Augustine, it was raining. I love St. Augustine in the rain. I stood across the street from this spot for 20 minutes waiting for someone with an umbrella to walk into my shot. And unbelievably, the person that walked into my shot was wearing all black with a black umbrella and a red scarf. And I just, luck favors the prepared, they say, but that was pretty amazing. That wasn't changed in Photoshop or anything. It took 20 minutes for someone with an umbrella to walk into the shot, but when they did, it was perfect. Same thing, St. Augustine, walking around in the rain again, found another shot. I only had to wait about 5 minutes for this one, but there again, I was amazed that, oh, look, the guy's umbrella matches the colors in the sign. And just waited for him to walk up the sidewalk and get between the car and the sign. But it was, again, I saw the scene and then waited for the person to come into it. But it was planning. Found the scene and just knew, wait for the person. Same thing here. Just sat here one day waiting for someone to. I thought someone would walk up or down the sidewalk, and then somebody came out from the side and walked across. I was like, well, that works perfectly. That technique, I've done it over and over again. When I went to Seattle and found the gum wall, I didn't want just a picture of the gum wall. It's an alley, people walk through it, and I shot a whole bunch of people walking through it, but waited for somebody that just had the right motion and gesture. And this was my favorite of all the people that walked through the alley when I was there. Doesn't have to be people. This is one that I wanted to do. This next one actually sells as a stock photo a lot as well for me. There's some salt flats where I know there's fiddler crabs, but they're very shy and scared of you. So what I had to do was I set the camera up in the puddle, and all the crabs ran away, scared. And then I activated the remote control phone app for my camera and walked away and sat down pretty far away and then waited about 10 minutes for the crabs to come back out and start scuttling around again. And this one came out and looked at my camera, and I got the shot. But it was, again, planning, knowing that I would have to be away from the scene to get the shot, and how to plan it and use the phone app and set the camera up and wait in a remote location and watch the phone app and wait to take the picture remotely from the phone. So we've talked about planning too, using photo pills to line up the sun and moon and Milky Way and things with shots. I've used photo pills to plan in advance for this shot here. This is not a composite. It's not fake. This is an individual actual frame. The moon was actually there. It's not stuck in with Photoshop. So that was planned out, and I knew specifically where to be in Curtis Hickson Park and be ready for this thanks to the PhotoPills app. One of the partial solar eclipses many years ago, I wanted to figure out, well, where would I have a clear, it was going to happen right at sunset, so I wanted to find a place where I would have a clear, unobstructed view on the horizon, and PhotoPills showed me an app on the bay, so I was actually shooting with a 400 millimeter lens across the water of the bay as it was as the sun was setting on the other side of the bay. But PhotoPills let me find a place in Apollo Beach where I could get down to the water and shoot this shot from Apollo Beach. And if you notice, you can even see sunspots on the sun. You can see a cluster of sunspots on the sun in that shot, which was a nice bonus. And I did the same thing again with the most recent partial solar eclipse we had earlier this year. I figured out a place at Fort DeSoto to get to photograph the partial eclipse, which you can see here. And I got a bonus of a halo around the sun in the shot. But this shot with the Canon pointed at the sun with the partial solar eclipse at the maximum point of the eclipse was not just random or by luck. It was by planning on where to be and when at the time when the sun was at maximum coverage by the moon shadow.
Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
To wrap it up with what you're, summarize. You can.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's what I say. Yep. Just let me know for time. But yeah, just want to give you the idea that you don't have to just go out and hope that you're going to find something with the with the camera when you're out there shooting. Take some time and start thinking creatively and plan how to execute some of your creative ideas. Sometimes they'll turn into your favorite shots.
That's part of the reason why we give you the assignments way in advance, so that you have time to actually think about this stuff and do some planning.
Yep. So that's one to help to try and give you a little inspiration for that and let you see that when in some cases, hey, what we're giving you for assignments are easy compared to what some folks have done.
Awesome. Very good.
Okay.
Great advice.
Any
Let
questions?
me
Questions for Jim, guys?
I was just thinking when I saw that man on fire, I mean, thinking about everything that they went through to execute that picture with a man actually on fire. But if you had seen that picture today in 2024, your instant reaction would be, oh, that's just AI or Photoshop.
And today that would most likely be the way they would actually execute it, as opposed to paying a Hollywood stuntman, and a crew and renting the Universal backlot to do the shot.
Yeah. And the same with all of them. I mean, the dolly ones and all the beds on the beach, you would just think, oh, that's just Photoshop. But to know that they actually did all this and went through all that, it's pretty impressive, I must say.
Any other questions?
Very interesting, Jim.
All right, Robert in the dark, it's your turn.
In the dark?
Yeah, we can't see you. You're in the dark. No, we can see you.
Well, I just came out to show you that we have nothing.
Nothing. No lights, huh?
No lights, no nothing.
Did you guys go through the storm with power the whole time?
The whole time had power.
Well, now it's your turn.
Only a few points about, because I don't have my examples, about panoramas, panos, as I call them. And that is one of the things you need to do is map out your scene, meaning that you are going to be shooting from, if you like to shoot horizontally with your camera in a horizontal position, you can, but you want to map it out to go at least 3 rows across. 3 frames across, and then tilt up slightly, 3 frames across again, and then tilt up slightly, 3 frames across to get at least somewhat of a square. If you're going to go vertical, if you're going to do vertical, same thing. If you're going to do vertical, you want to make sure that you are swiveling, especially if you're hand holding, swiveling on the ball point of your toe, meaning your camera is in the same plane as your front toe. And you want to swivel your back foot. All of this would be on the video and the thing, but you want to swivel your back foot so that you're not swinging the camera around in such a manner of a circle, but you're just rotating the camera on its axis. Did that just show through?
Yep.
So you're just rotating it on its axis. The thing about pano is that you want to pick the most important thing in the photograph to be in focus. Meaning you're going to be shooting a pano in a manual mode, no auto ISO, no autofocus. You're going to gather your shot by doing a test shot, getting in your histogram in a exposure that's going to give you the most balance of lights to dark. And you're going to focus on the main item that you want people to see. From that point, you will start, again, in the manual mode, rotating your camera to the left and to the right. And it doesn't matter if you go too far to the left, too far to the right. You want to overlap at least, at bare minimum, 30%. Bare minimum 30%. I like to do it at about 50% overlap. And that's going to give Lightroom or whatever your stitching program the most amount of information.
And
now,
do you use the overlap on the layers as well? So it's not only cross to cross to cross, but also on the next layer down, right?
Yes, absolutely. So you really do have to map out your shot in a manner that you know that, let's say if you're photographing a building, the end of the building would be the end. That would be your edge. And then you sweep across to the other end. Now, at the end of your pano, when you shoot your last shot of your pano, put your hand in the frame and photograph a photo of your hand. That lets you know, you know that the pano has ended at that point. And then you go to the next one. Even if you mess up, when you mess up and you say, oh, wow, I forgot to focus, put your hand and shoot an end shot. Because when you get those images back and you start looking through them, the worst thing that can happen is which one is in focus, which one is right, which one's wrong. That is one of the worst things that can happen. And I've done it in the beginning, but I've learned, as Lee Wen said, you learn by your mistakes. Now, I tend to shoot panos a lot because I like to see details of where I've been and what I've done. Meaning, I get a full picture as though I'm standing there whenever I shoot a pano. And I generally want to shoot a pano not with a wide angle lens, but somewhat from a medium to telephoto lens. I usually go about 35 to 200 millimeters when I'm doing a pano. I do not go, in fact, rarely do I go below 35 millimeters because the greater the focal length, the less the barreling effect you'll get. So I will implore you guys for this to shoot, and you do whatever the heck you please, but shoot it. Let's shoot it around 45, 50 millimeters or greater. in order to do your pano. That means you're going to have a lot more panos, but you're going to have a hell of a lot more detail in your photograph when you enlarge it. I photograph people. Now, just getting on the term of people, I photograph people a lot in events like Leon was pointing out. And what I do is I will photograph the person in a vertical manner, and I'll photograph the person 5-6 shots until I think I have the shot. And once I photograph them 5-6 shots, and I say, okay, I got the look I want. And again, this is an event. And then I'll start to pan left, right, and then up and down. And then put it together. And that way I have some choices that I can put into the frame if the guy is goofy or the kid is doing something, that's not rather pleasant. That's why I spend the time photographing the person first and then photographing the scene around it. Lightroom does a wonderful job of putting things together. It does not do an excellent job. There are plenty of programs out there. PD GUI, what was the other one? Huey something. I have one called APG. But there are a number of other programs that are much more effective. I also even use Affinity Photo to put together panos because it's much more intuitive. So, but as far as this assignment is concerned, Lightroom should suffice and do very well if you are photographing with at least a 30 to 50% overlap. Does very well in that.
Photoshop, right?
Photoshop does well as well. But but here's what I want to do now on the output of it. What you want to do is you want to process your images all inside of Lightroom. Once you process them all inside of Lightroom, make sure that they all process pretty much the same. And then you want to export them as full-size JPEGs. Export them as full-size JPEG, and then re-import those images, and then run them through Lightroom panel. And it's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of wear tear on your memory if you do it that way.
You see, Robert, I didn't get what you said. You said you process in the Lightroom first in the panel, right? You export that, then you go back to Lightroom, you stitching again?
Yeah, no, you see, you're only processing. This is if you have like a slow computer. You process the images inside Lightroom, and then I export them out as JPEGs.
Yeah.
Then I re-import those ones that I just exported, bring them back. Now they're JPEG files. And then I run that through the pano.
Yeah, the stitching.
You are just stitching them, right?
No, I have not.
You have not. Oh,
no.
Yeah, he's.
I always thought you'd put it all together first, then process it.
Yeah. You don't stitch them first in the Lightroom panel.
No, you select all of them and then you process them. Now you can, if you got a fast computer, by all means, you can run it through your raw files through the panel process. I'm saying that if you shoot a lot of panels and you want to see your computer process these images rather quickly, then export them out as JPEG and bring them back. It'll do it a lot faster.
So you process each one, that export that back to panel to stitch them.
Right.
Right. Because what you want to do is those individual frames that are going to be combined, you want to process them to all look the same with their exposure. Get them all as close to matching in exposure and color, and then you export them as JPEGs. Then those JPEGs will be easy for your computer to combine and have it look well.
I see. Okay.
And you're going to have a super file. I'm sorry. Let me turn back on the power. Oh, shirt tails. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what I did with the key in the car, but the whole idea of it, and my golly, I know that you guys think that I turned the lights off intentionally, but if I did it for the entire street, in fact, the entire neighborhood. But the thing about it is that when you go back and look at a pano, you look at all of the details, all of the things that as though you are in a room or in that spot observing the scene. So that's what's going on with the pano.
So you're looking for the assignment, you would like to see at least 3 rows of 3?
At least 3 rows of 3.
Okay.
And that gives me, that lets me know, and by the way, if it's okay, I would like the uncropped version of the pano to show. In other words, don't do a final crop.
Okay, you want the actual, you don't want any cropping at all. You just want, but sometimes when you put a pano together, it gets kind of warpy on the edges.
Sure, it gets warpy on the edges. That's what we want to see.
Okay.
Yes, and if you want to do a crop version, to show afterwards. But as far as the assignment, I would like for it to be uncropped, and then if you want to show the crop version, that'd be great. But uncropped, that shows you everyone what you have to do afterwards. So it's always nicest when we see a finished product, but oftentimes we don't get to see Ansel Adams' raw file in a sense. So does that make any sense to anybody, or is anyone have any confusion about what was said?
I'm fine with everything except the uncropped version. I don't see the point.
Me too. I'm not sure.
That would bother you.
Hey, Robert, this is Susan.
Yeah.
Could I ask a favor, since you've done it this way and I am not familiar with pano at all? I know that in our classes, when you do the video for me, sometimes helping me with different things, could you do this video on this pen and then give it to Lynn and have her post it for us so that we could actually see rather than just have you
editing it?
Have me doing what?
Have you got a video that we could share with them later?
Oh yeah, I can make something as soon as the lights come back on.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Oh yeah, put together something short and sweet that explains all this, and we'll just share it with everybody on the website.
Yeah,
that would be great.
And could we see an example of what you mean by an uncropped version?
When you put together I have no power.
I don't mean now. I know you.
Right. So when you process a pano inside of Lightroom, at the end, when it processes it, it'll ask you, do you want to crop this version?
Oh.
And the answer will be to uncheck it where it says crop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you'll end up with some white on the edges.
You'll end up with a really stupid looking photo is what you'll end up with.
Actually, now here's the thing, Brian, and I appreciate what you're saying, but sometimes you can embrace the difference. We used to take back when I was in art school, we would take film emulsion and separate it. This is chrome film and separate the emulsion from the plastic, and then lay that onto a page, the emulsion now, and it would look just like a warped pano. So sometimes, at least in this one case, go ahead and embrace it for this one time, and then let's just have fun with it.
Yeah. And you can do the final cut, like you said. You can send both. So you could actually submit 4 images for this assignment. For the assignment, 1 uncropped, 1 cropped, 1 uncropped, and 1 cropped. So yeah, we'll make an exception for this one because it's something special. So.
Yeah, because I would like to see the artistic vision of how you crop it as the photographer, but then also show us the assemblage,
yes,
in its raw form.
All right. Sounds good. Any questions, guys?
Well, I just hope that in the video that you will go over like how to combine these pictures in Lightroom, because this is like totally new to me too. So
Yeah. Yeah, I've
Surprisingly,
only did it in
I guess you
Photoshop.
select all of them and combine them somehow.
Tori, it's surprisingly easy.
Tori,
Okay.
Tori, if I can have your attention, because
Yes, sir.
because you let me beat up on you last week, I will dedicate the video to you.
Yeah,
But
you have
Tori,
to tell me like I'm 3 years old.
It's
Tori,
surprisingly actually very simple because the Lightroom has come such a long way in terms of being able to combine stuff like this. And as long as you've overlapped and you give them all the images that are in the series, it can handle it. You hit one button and it does it all for you. So
Okay.
really easy.
if push comes to shove, Tori, go to YouTube and search three-row panel and Lightroom, and you'll find it.
The
Right.
command in Lightroom is Command M or Control M.
Oh, okay.
Easy. Like I said, as long as you've got
That's
like,
very easy.
it doesn't like it if you get, if you miss an image or if there's not enough overlap. But as long as you have the overlap and you've got all the images that you need for the pano, it can do it pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's
Control
the
M
most
for a
important
PC, Command M for a Mac.
And I
Okay.
promise you, Tori, and everybody else, this will not require 700 beds.
Okay.
that's needed.
That's a good thing.
No fire.
What just one more question. So what is a good place to do a pano picture? Because I imagine like at the beach or a landscape or something you have like a wide, area that you can take pictures. So what is a good place to choose for a panoramic picture?
If I may answer that question, you start off by photographing the things that are closest to you. Look out your front door, photograph across the street, and let that be your start. That will spark more interest in once you see how to do it. Then you'll be able to venture out. But if you go out and say, "Okay, I'm going to look for a good place to do it," having never done it, you are going to disappoint yourself.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim's. I say
another-
Jim's picture right now to me has got to be. If Jim would say something, you'll see a picture that would make a perfect multi-layer panel right now. Say something, Jim.
What do you mean by say something?
Your picture comes up. So your picture is prominent. Well, look at guys.
You want me to speak so I become the
Yeah.
big picture on anybody that's yeah. Interiors are great. Interior spaces in buildings, especially like a larger space, like a lobby space, within a building, is a great thing. Downtown area cityscapes, things like that are great opportunities for panoramas.
Like the one on the wall?
If you have a shot that you can't get everything you want to get in and you don't feel like you have a wide enough angle lens, that's also a good thing to do.
Oh, there is one more very important thing that I need to make sure that you guys know. If you're going to handhold without a tripod, make sure that your minimum handholdable shutter speed is going to be 1/160 or 1/200.
Okay.
Minimum shutter speed.
Yeah. You don't want to
try.
Yeah, if you don't want anything any too slow, it should be at least 1 over the longest minimum the millimeters of your lens. So if you're at 200 millimeter, it should be at least 1/2000th your hand holding. So or 2/100th. I'm sorry. Whatever the length of your millimeter, if you're hand holding, never go slower than the millimeters that you're shooting at. What I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Focal length.
Yeah, the focal length.
So give an example. You were giving an example and you confused it. What?
Yeah, if you're shooting at 200 millimeters, you should be at least 1/200th of a second or faster if you're hand holding. So yeah, you don't want to go too slow or you'll have shake. You'll have a blurriness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an old rule of thumb called the focal length reciprocal rule.
Anything else, guys? It's almost 9:30. A little
Oh,
late.
but we only lost 3 people. That's good.
I just have a quick question for everybody. What did you think of this?
I thought it was
That's
great.
interesting. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
look
think it's
forward to
cool.
participating.
A lot of different things coming at you for a short amount of time. Hopefully we can get some more of y'all to do this next time because I think it's a lot of fun.
Richard already said he would.
Yep.
He keeps volunteering you, Richard, for everything. So
The one thing we got to be careful of is getting too many people that give 7-minute presentations that last 25 minutes. If we do that, we'll be here all night.
well, hey, it's okay. It worked out okay.
It's okay, Brian. It really is okay.
Yeah, 7. We actually expanded it to 15 or a little bit more because we knew we had only 6 people. So
Well, you had questions also.
we had questions too. So
True.
Yeah.
True.
yeah, so it worked out okay. I mean, it's a little late, but that's okay. It's a Thursday night. Who cares?
Yeah, it worked out. But I'm saying next year, if we get more participants, we have to be careful.
Well, we can always split it up over 2 nights too if we have enough people who want to do it. So anyway, all right, guys, I appreciate you coming tonight. I'm going to stop the recording.
Had a good time, everyone.
Thank